my goal is just to get companies with every proposal, even with the ones that deal with ESG. It's just to get companies back to fiduciary duty. Like, I'm a Bitcoiner, but I swear I'm not doing this because of my own stack. Like, I really just think that companies are losing their shareholders a lot of money every year. It's a big problem. A lot of people that, that are not Bitcoiners, they're just investing in the market because they have if they just keep their money in cash, or it's losing value due to inflation. So they're either buying bonds, it's also not beating inflation. So they invest in the market, they just buy the S&P or they buy indexes. And when you have every single company in these indexes, except for MicroStrategy now and Tesla, not holding Bitcoin, that's a lot of value being lost just from their cash and bond holdings. And so, why not help America? Why not help American shareholders get back to, producing value for the shareholders?
What's going on, guys? Today is going to be an incredible episode because I went and I did a ton of work that all of you are about to benefit for. Here's what happened. Some of you have probably seen that there was a proposal put forward to Microsoft and Amazon for them to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet. That proposal was written by a live human being. It's a guy named Ethan. How do I know that? Because I went on the internet, I did a bunch of research, I dug and I dug and I dug, and I found Ethan. But not only did I find Ethan Peck, who's the deputy director of the Free Enterprise Project, but I got Ethan Peck sitting right here with me. And now we're going to talk about exactly what he did, why he did it, how these shareholder proposals work, and what it's going to mean for Bitcoin on public company balance sheets. And so here's my episode with Ethan Peck. All right, Ethan, let's get started with this. You put forward a proposal to Microsoft for them to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet. How the heck do you do that, and why did you do it?
First of all, thanks for having me. The reason that I did it is because Microsoft has a lot of cash on its balance sheet, cash equivalents, and bonds. And so just because of inflation, their cash is being debased constantly, and the bond yields are not outpacing the true inflation rate. They're losing money for their shareholders. So what I do at the Free Enterprise Project, we're a 3-person team. We just submit shareholder proposals to companies. So essentially we own shares in the companies. And if you own a certain amount of shares, you can submit a proposal that's voted on at the annual meeting. It's just a lot of our proposals deal with sort of getting corporations out of politics, back to fiduciary duty, out of sort of woke stuff, unnecessary environmental commitments. We're a conservative organization, but we don't even push right-wing values on corporations. We just get them out of politicized things.
So like ESG, DEI, all the things
Exactly.
that kind of seem like the corporate world went crazy for a little bit. You guys are basically showing up and you're saying, hey, stop the nonsense, get back to building your company, just focus on your fiduciary duty to shareholders, which is drive profits and create shareholder value.
Exactly. That's exactly what we do. We
Okay.
file,
Now, when you show up and you're like, hey, Microsoft, buy Bitcoin, you're also saying create shareholder value.
Exactly. So I just, I've been a Bitcoiner for a couple of years, but I never thought to submit this proposal to any company before because I didn't want to push my own values on a company. It wasn't until it sort of clicked for me that, wait, corporations are losing a lot of money for their shareholders, holding so much cash. What's the answer to this? Well, obviously it's Bitcoin. So I just thought, corporations have a fiduciary duty to shareholders to solve this problem that they're not adequately addressing. And the best solution is Bitcoin. Until someone else can come up with a better solution, corporations should look at this. And so that's all, I very humbly went to corporations, as if whoever saw the proposal, it didn't require them or mandate them to buy Bitcoin. It just sort of asked them to do an assessment. There's also another reason for that. It's sort of lame to just sort of ask for an assessment. But if you ask for too much, then you might be infringing on their what's called ordinary business. And the SEC might just not allow you to have that.
So there's a very complex process here. I can say this, I don't think you can say this, but you're an expert at submitting these shareholder proposals. How many proposals do you think that you and your colleagues have submitted over the years?
I've been doing this for 3 years. I would say close to 150.
Okay, so you do 50 a year, one a week almost,
Yeah.
right, of these proposals. And you've got a lot of experience of getting denied, where people will say, oh, you have too many characters, or oh, you violated this, or whatever. Like the companies are looking for the technicalities so they don't have to hear the proposals, and they can clear a bunch of these things out of the way, and they just get to do what they want to do. Is that right?
Yeah. So there's a lot of nonsense. Like if you go above 500 words, even if you have one time I had too many apostrophes. So a word with an apostrophe counted as 2 words. It was a 501 words, or too many dashes. They'll omit the proposal, or a link counts as 1 word, but 2 links count as 2 like that. And if you do anything, you have to request by a certain deadline and ask for a meeting within a certain number of days. If you ask for a meeting with them like 7 days out from when you requested, not 15 days out, they can omit it. So there's a lot of technicalities to it. So on one hand, anyone could submit a proposal, and I really want to try to inspire like a grassroots movement. So if anyone's listening, they own shares in a company, they want to do this too, reach out to me. I'll help you do it. Because the more of us that are submitting, I shouldn't be the only one doing this. The more of us that can submit proposals like this, it's more of a grassroots movement, asking a company, not just coming from one person. That would be much more effective. But at the same token, you don't want to risk getting it omitted, because once the SEC decides, okay, you can't submit this proposal because you use the wrong language at this company, then you set a precedent at that company and you can't submit the same proposal for a number of years. And so if you're interested in submitting a proposal, someone listening, reach out to me. I'm happy to, walk you
through. So basically,
it.
It's really important when somebody submits it to make sure they submit it the right way.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk Microsoft. So why'd you pick Microsoft? You said they had a lot of cash. Why did you think to submit this? Like, you do this for a day job, but you said that you never thought about Bitcoin. Were you just sitting there bored one day, or like explain kind of this process of how this ends up getting submitted?
Well, I'm always trying to be creative and trying to get corporations back to their fiduciary duty. So I've submitted a lot of unique proposals that no one submitted before. Like one of them was asking companies to only have a board members exclusive to that company, so that you don't have like companies with directors that sit on multiple boards at the same time. Like I think I was the first person to submit a proposal like that. And then I just saw this problem of inflation with companies holding a lot of cash, and I was like, okay, where's the next place I could submit to? Microsoft happens to be an off-season one. Most shareholder meetings are in the spring, so like April, May are most of them. Microsoft is like one of them that happens to be in December. And when I had this idea, it was May. And so the deadline for submission, I think, was June. So then I just, okay, Microsoft's a big company. They have a lot of cash. They fit this problem. They're up, and also I would be lying if I say that I didn't like the dichotomy between Microsoft and MicroStrategy just in the name.
Just literally Microsoft and MicroStrategy. Exactly. You thought it'd be funny.
Yeah.
You're definitely a Bitcoiner. All right. So you submit the proposal and then walk through what is the process, and like, who finds it? Did you send this to somebody in Bitcoin world? Like, Bitcoiners are psychopaths and they got like all kinds of alerts up, all this stuff, whatever. But like, walk through, like, how does this become, somewhat of a national story?
Yeah. I didn't make it a national story at all. I submitted it in June and completely forgot about it. Like I told you, I submit 50 of these, our organization, not just me. And so in October, they had to publish the proxy ballot with the SEC. And so when it went public, I just started seeing like all these Bitcoiners started, the cyber hornets are amazing. And so they made it viral. They put the pressure on Microsoft, and they deserve more credit than me. To me, it was just submitting another 500 words, trying to get corporations back to, focusing on fiduciary duty, which they've been ignoring for a long time. And that was it. And then Bitcoiners took it from there.
All right. So as part of this, at some point, you're going to get 3 minutes to present to the Microsoft board. Mm-hmm. Every proposal that gets heard gets 3 minutes. Was it special for this? Like, why did you get 3 minutes? And then what'd you do with your 3 minutes? Today's episode is brought to you by Bitcoin IRA. Are you a crypto investor with a retirement account, but don't have any crypto in your retirement account? Then listen up, this is for you. Bitcoin IRA is revolutionizing the way Americans save for retirement by helping smart investors diversify their savings with access to over 75 cryptocurrencies. With world-class customer service, military-grade encryption, and a vertically integrated licensed trust company, it's no wonder more than 200,000 Americans trust Bitcoin IRA to secure their financial future. Getting started is quick and easy. It takes just 3 minutes to open an account. Once you're set up, their team of IRA specialists will reach out to guide you through every step of the process. Whether you're transferring an IRA from a legacy bank, rolling over an old 401k, or starting fresh with new contribution, the Bitcoin IRA team is here to help you get access to real crypto in your retirement account. And here's the best part. As a listener to this podcast, you can earn up to $500 in rewards when you add funds to your account. That's right. Search for Bitcoin IRA in the App Store or visit bitcoinira.com/pomp to join 200,000 Americans on their journey to upgrade their retirement. Bitcoinira.com/pomp to upgrade today, and you can earn up to $500 in rewards when you add funds to your account.
Okay. So most of the time it's 3 minutes. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's like 4 or 5, but it's usually 3 minutes. And when I saw Saylor tweet at Satya Nadella, I thought, okay, I have to I have to let him get the 3 minutes instead of me. Like he's interested in talking to Satya Nadella. Let me try to reach out to him. And, one thing led to another, finally contacted him.
Cyber Hornets.
Yeah, exactly. And just offered him my 3 minutes. He was, very generous with his time. And when we spoke, he said, listen, like, let's try to get in front of Satya. Why don't we offer them to withdraw the proposal in exchange for me meeting with Satya? And I feel at liberty to disclose this because Saylor said it publicly on Twitter. And so I said to Microsoft, like, we'll withdraw the proposal and not submit one in 2025 and not submit one in 2026. If you just agree to 1 hour meeting with Saylor, he'll sign an NDA anywhere you want in the world. And they said no. Like they would rather just expose their company to a lot of like negative press, obviously, publicly fumble. I mean, yeah, like, and that just shows you how close-minded they are and how early we are. I don't think every company's that close-minded.
Were they annoyed by this?
They didn't seem annoyed. They just were sort of like
you guys run your thing. We don't care. We're not going to do this. We don't think you can get the votes.
Yeah. To me, it's like a sort of a blockbuster moment, not buying Netflix. And also Microsoft very famously didn't get involved with smartphones in like 2008. So it's just another one of those moments.
Yeah. To have gotten the proposal approved, how many votes would you need? What percentage?
It'd be 50%.
So you need more than 50% of the votes to say yes, and then you could actually get this done.
Yeah.
But that would just be a study.
Yeah. For now, hopefully with a different SEC and less bias, we can sort of start to push, the envelope on requesting bigger things like an allocation. But you have to be careful. And so there's a way to do this without, sort of setting the wrong precedent.
Okay. It only got 0.5% approval.
Yeah.
A lot of people look at it like, oh, nobody wants this. But really, there's a lot of large asset management firms that own huge blocks. I think BlackRock in particular at Microsoft owns like 10 or 12%. Is that right?
So they own 7%, I think 7.5%, but they control like 12% of the vote because a lot of people are not voting their shares.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like 99.5% of Microsoft shareholders don't want this. It's not exactly like that. It's more like you have the top 5 asset managers and the top 2 proxy advisory services, ISS and Glass Lewis, who basically advise the pension funds on how to vote. So when you have like those 7 right there, they're controlling 90% of the vote, just them. So if you go 0 for 7 on them, you're already at like
90%.
Exactly. So if we just flip BlackRock, we're already at 12%.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like it goes in chunks. It's not like a vote for a president.
All right. You talked to BlackRock about why they voted no.
Not just me. I invited Parker Lewis to join that conversation.
Yep.
And when I talked to Geode Capital, I also invited Andrew Hones and Jesse Kobernick. I'm trying to like pass the ball to pros in the Bitcoin community as much as possible. Someone's better than me at convincing them. Let them do it. Like I let Saylor speak. So I spoke to, it's really the investment stewardship department at these companies that decide. I think a lot of people don't know that. Like a lot of people look like, oh, well, you see a lot of stuff on Twitter like, oh, well, BlackRock's definitely going to vote for it. They're buying up all the Bitcoin. I wish it worked that way, but how it really works is BlackRock owns thousands of companies. Every company has 10, 12, 13 directors up for vote and 5, 6, sometimes 10 shareholder proposals. They have tens of thousands, sometimes 100,000 items a year to vote on, which is a lot of research that they have to do going into it, right? And so they have investment stewardship departments that all their job is just to vote shares for every company, okay? And they vote on behalf of their clients. They're not, and what happened, unfortunately, a lot of these investment stewardship teams are staffed, I'm going to be polite, with sort of pro ESG people.
Old school.
It's a mix of like old school and like sort of woke millennials that see the world in a very specific kind of way. And so they're sort of hesitant towards Bitcoin. So even if BlackRock's going up and buying a lot of Bitcoin, there's a disconnect there. And so what we have to do is we have to convince them, because remember, like now we submitted Amazon, it's the same exact I don't want to dox them, but it's the same people vote, like literally the same people voting on that proposal. So we have to.
You think that they're going to vote yes?
On one hand, there's negatives and positives to it. Like they seem to have made their mind up. On the other hand, instead of just having like 15 minutes with them, we now get more time with them. So we get to like more exposure to this issue. A lot of them were naive on Bitcoin, like completely naive about it. And so we just get another shot at orange pilling them, so to speak. And so there's some good part about that. You getting to engage with the same people. And I wasn't saying they weren't all closed-minded. Like there was some open-mindedness but you know, they're not 99% of shareholder proposals on any issue doesn't pass. And so when you have a brand new shareholder proposal at a company that's like already successful, I think I saw you say this on Fox the other day, like Microsoft's already successful. Like, why do they have to rock the boat? So they're not going to rock the boat at a successful company on a first ever proposal. Once they have more exposure to this, I think that there's a better chance to sort of build momentum and sort of get that number up in the future. And
so Microsoft, because it was only 0.5% approved, you can't resubmit for a couple of years.
Yeah,
on,
you have to
on
pass.
Bitcoin for Microsoft.
You have to pass 5%.
So really what's important is, should you go to companies that have really big retail shareholder bases?
Right. Okay. So that's a really good idea. And I'm looking at that too.
I only got one good idea here. So there you go. You got my good idea.
Yeah. So there's a couple different things that I'm looking at.
All right.
One, it's companies that have a lot of cash. So that's why I submitted to Amazon and Microsoft. So because they have the biggest problem. Two is companies that are more likely to do something like this, like a smaller company that might not have a lot going for them, that's not really successful. You know, they might throw a Hail Mary. They might be more likely to throw a Hail Mary and purchase Bitcoin. And then the third thing is, who are the biggest shareholders? Mm-hmm. So I think that it's worth submitting to all, you know, different kinds of companies and just seeing how it plays out.
You go do Berkshire?
The deadline passed already this year, so we already submitted something else there. But definitely next year. Why not? You know, they have a lot of cash.
Come on, we got to get Buffett to do it.
Exactly.
Imagine Buffett having to buy Bitcoin because the shareholders told him to do it.
That'd be, you know,
he'd cry.
Yeah.
He'd cry.
Yeah.
He'd say, "Oh no, I said that this was like harvesting dead baby brains."
Yeah.
And the media would love it, right?
Yeah.
They'd be having a field day asking him about Bitcoin.
Eat it up.
I don't think it'll pass though.
No.
All right. So, what's your goal? Like, what do you hope that you can kind of accomplish with this?
My goal is just to get companies with every proposal, even with the ones that deal with ESG. It's just to get companies back to fiduciary duty. Like, I'm a Bitcoiner, but I swear I'm not doing this because of my own stack. Like, I really just think that companies are losing their shareholders a lot of money every year. It's a big problem. You know, when you're a lot of people that, you know, that are not Bitcoiners, they're just investing in the market because they have if they just keep their money in cash, or, you know, it's losing value due to inflation. So they're either buying bonds that's also not beating inflation. So they invest in the market. They just buy the S&P or they buy indexes. And when you have every single company in these indexes, except for MicroStrategy now and, you know, Tesla, not holding Bitcoin, that's a lot of value being lost just from their cash and bond holdings. And so, you know, why not help America? Why not help American shareholders get back to, you know, producing value for the shareholders?
You mentioned Tesla. They already own some Bitcoin. Do you think that that's a potential target where you could go and get them to up the allocation of Bitcoin since they already own some?
Yeah, but they also have less of a problem. So, you know, they're not as... I'm not as interested in submitting to Tesla because they don't have as big of a problem as a lot of other companies. But if they're more likely to, you know, up their Bitcoin holdings, that's something to consider. So I'm looking at that too.
Got it. And you're doing this pretty much by yourself right now. You've got your like colleagues, but they're not Bitcoiners, are they?
Well, they're becoming Bitcoiners.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, wait. What does that mean?
Well, I think, you know, one of them read Bitcoin Standard now, and so
they're becoming more interested.
Becoming more interested.
I mean, your guys' organization, this whole idea of get back to fiduciary duty, get away from all the like woke nonsense, whatever. Like it does, I would think, lean itself for people to have kind of a propensity to be aligned with the ethos of Bitcoin around, you know, free speech and merit based, you know, kind of money and those things, right?
Yeah. Well, definitely. Like my colleagues believe in sound money, and so, but you know, not everyone. And there's a different road to Bitcoin for everyone. And they definitely see the value in Bitcoin and they're becoming more and more, they've never been against Bitcoin. And, you know, when I asked them, can I submit this kind of proposal? They were like, yeah, go ahead. How does it fit within the framework of what we do? And I explained it, like, just, it's in line with companies' fiduciary duty to not lose their shareholders' money from holding a lot of cash and bonds. And they're like, yeah, that makes sense. Go ahead and do it. So that's what we did.
It's crazy. Who's like the coolest person you talked to after doing this? Saylor?
Yeah, probably Saylor.
All right. Who else? Anybody else reach out to you, or did media track you down or anything?
Well, yeah, I spoke to a couple different members of the media. Today,
they do stories.
I think New York Times, Bloomberg. Now doing this, it's an honor.
We're basically the same. New York Times and Pomp podcast. Well, same.
Here we talk about the truth, and there propaganda. But,
I don't know if you can say that before the article comes out, because the article may be changing if they hear you say that. Parker Lewis talked on Marty Bent. Everyone is so helpful. Sam Callahan. Everyone is so helpful. They're very interested. Really cool. Bitcoin. That's part of what makes the Bitcoin community great. It's like, I was never really part of it. I was always just following. But as soon as I reached out, like, hey, I submitted this proposal, like, wow, it's interesting. Tell me about it. Mm-hmm. So everyone's willing to help. All right. What do you need help with now?
A couple things. So looking into submitting at different companies, also looking into expanding it, as a more grassroots movement, different shareholders submitting it, similar proposals. And I think that growing, building momentum on this proposal so that it's, and also engaging with asset managers, the people that vote, growing the momentum and getting companies to sort of, it's a process, but I think it'll happen.
And the asset management firms, you mentioned BlackRock. Who are the other big ones? Today's episode is brought to you by Polkadot. Polkadot offers secure, scalable, and decentralized blockchain technology that perfectly aligns with the needs of innovative projects. It was developed by Gavin Wood, one of the co-founders of Ethereum and the creator of Solidity. Polkadot aims to build an internet where users have full control over their data and their applications. Polkadot offers tons of unique features, a shared security model, along with the new auction model and significant implementations like ASIC banking. Given these characteristics, it's easy to understand why Polkadot is gaining more and more traction in the cryptocurrency world. Some people even are talking about it as the AWS of Web3. Now, companies such as Mythical Games, Astor Network, and over 50 other independent blockchains with hundreds of applications already leverage Polkadot's technology to power their platforms. If you're looking for a reliable, scalable, and cutting-edge solution, Polkadot seems to be the top choice for industry players. Go check them out today at polkadot.com.
So Vanguard, State Street, a lot of times it's like Geode Capital, Fidelity, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan. With Vanguard and JP Morgan, I didn't even bother contacting them. But Goldman Sachs, I recently bought they revealed that they bought a lot of Bitcoin. Charles Schwab's getting in the game. So
Vanguard, they're the ones who said that they're not going to offer the Bitcoin ETFs, but aren't they really big investors in MicroStrategy?
They are. They're the biggest shareholder.
They're the biggest shareholder. So it's kind of like talking out of one side of your mouth while you're doing something else, right?
That's exactly what I've been trying to tell the asset managers. Like, how could you justify voting against this proposal while buying up Bitcoin? You have a lot of exposure to, companies that are very much tied to the price of Bitcoin, like not just MicroStrategy, Riot, Marathon, Coinbase, Block. Tesla has Bitcoin. You don't have a problem there. Why do you have a problem with Microsoft owning 1%, right? A lot of the answers that we got back was like, well, it's too volatile. And, why shouldn't they just kick that money back to shareholders? And I said, yeah, maybe they should kick that money back to shareholders, but that's a different question. Microsoft already determined that they're holding $75 billion in cash and they're not giving that money back to shareholders. So even if they were to give $20 billion back to shareholders, then the question becomes, what do you do with the other $55 billion? It's the same question, right? So, and they didn't really have much of an answer for that. But I'm hopeful that they'll eventually see the light.
I think that this is going to happen.
I hope so. It could take time. And frankly, there's a lot of bias against us, my organization.
Why?
Because we've been like the leading anti-ESG, pro-fiduciary sort of shareholder proponent for years. There's a couple others doing great work, NLPC, Jerry Boyer. but we've been doing, we submit the most. I think we submitted the second most shareholder proposals of any proponent last year.
But you guys are doing it as a nonprofit.
Yeah.
Right. So you guys aren't necessarily making money off of this. It's very much a kind of philanthropic activity to go and say, hey, look, we want you guys to do right by shareholders.
Yeah. I think there might be a way to do this in a for-profit way. It's hard. Like Carl Icahn sort of does it, but unless you have like billions of dollars and you can really move the ball, I think that it sort of has to be a nonprofit thing. Because if you just own $2,000 worth of shares, then the avenue that you have to take is submitting proposals, also nominating directors. That's another avenue that I started thinking about. Like the directors of these companies, it's such an echo chamber.
How does it work?
Okay, so you just nominate, you can nominate a director and they're voted on. It's like an item at the meeting, same as a proposal. Most meetings, all the directors up for nomination were nominated by the board, okay, by the company. They're nominating their own candidates, and they pass with like 95%. So I've been to hundreds of meetings. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a director receive below 90%. So that just I think the only time was when like Exxon like intentionally kicked off 2 directors and they got also like 2% or something. And so that was like, it was like known that it was going to happen. So it's not really like a vote. It's really the asset managers determine this is what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that there's a chance like the retail shareholders in certain companies could pull it off?
Retail shareholders have a better chance because they're people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Asset managers are massive institutions.
They're the blob.
Yeah, they're the blob and they own each other. But again, like it's their investment stewardship departments that decide this. And so we have to appeal to them. And it's going to take time. But I think that as things change, as we get a new SEC, that's, not as biased against the organizations and shareholder proponents with a certain viewpoint, companies are going to move back to neutral. And I think you're seeing it already, honestly.
So when you guys put forward more proposals, you guys need help with amplifying the message. You need probably the organization. What is the name of the organization behind the project?
National Center for Public Policy Research. And we have a couple different programs.
That sounds like some smart people shit. All right. So you guys need donations there.
Yeah.
Right. That helps if you're.
You can go to nationalcenter.org. Actually, the president called me and he said, can you set up a Bitcoin address?
Oh, really?
Yeah, yesterday. And so I'm going to do that too.
All right. And why? Because he's like, oh, these Bitcoiners, they seem crazy. Like if they're going to be getting excited about us, maybe they can give us some money.
Yeah.
Do you know what the budget is every year for the organization?
I'm honestly not involved in any of that. I just keep my head down, do my work.
All right. And then the third thing is that you need other shareholders who would want to submit these proposals to companies where they've held how many shares or how much money does the portfolio value have to be? Right.
So it's $2,000 worth of shares for 3 years, $15,000 worth for 2 years, or $25,000 worth for 1 year, and you had to have held it consecutively. So if you have $2,100 worth, but it dips below 2,000, the clock resets as soon as it does. So you have.
So if somebody out there's got 50 grand worth of a stock and they've held it for at least 1 year and it never dipped below 25,000, they're ready to fire.
Yep.
Okay. And where can we send people to find you if they want help in submitting these proposals?
You can go to our website, nationalcenter.org, or you can send me, personally at epec@nationalcenter.org.
All right. epec@nationalcenter.org.
Yep.
Somebody reaches out and says, hey, I want to submit. You'll help them figure out, make sure they don't mess it up.
Yep.
And then maybe we can just we just take over the S&P 500.
Let's do it.
DDoS attack them with all these proposals.
Yeah.
And then they're all going to be calling each other, be like, hey, you got to vote on this thing? Yeah, I got to vote on this thing. And then the stewardship folks, they'd be like, are you kidding me? We got to vote on this 47 times this year.
Exactly. And then you get to engage with them. So you can reach out to them. Sometimes they're closed-minded. They don't want to talk to you. But a lot of times they'll hear you out for like 20, 30 minutes. And you get to talk like, this is why I think this proposal is a good idea. And we basically have to win them over if you want the proposal to win. There's another element of it too, though. So like I've come to their agreements with companies. A lot of times they don't want the press. So I'll submit a proposal and I'll say, listen, we'll withdraw the proposal if you meet me halfway and settle on this. And we sign an agreement. This happened a couple times. One that I could speak about because they violated their agreement.
Ooh,
yeah.
You had an agreement, they violated it?
Yeah.
Who did that?
Best Buy.
Oh, Best Buy. All right.
Yeah.
What was the agreement?
Basically, well, this is very divisive, which Best Buy shouldn't be involved in at all. But Best Buy was giving money to a lot of organizations that sort of advance trans ideology in children.
Okay.
And so we tried to stop that, and we told them this is inappropriate. And your shareholders are divided on this. Like, you can't take money of all shareholders and give it to organizations that more than half of them, okay, vehemently disagree with. Like, it's very divisive.
That's crazy. Like, just so we're clear, if you take shareholders' money that more than half of your shareholders disagree with what you're doing with the money, that sounds like you got a pretty good argument about, hey, knock this off. Exactly.
So they came to an agreement with us. They stopped giving to a couple of organizations that do like really the most radical things on, LGBT issues. So, and so they agreed to stop. We came to a private agreement,
and so you guys had put forward a proposal.
Yeah.
You pulled it.
We pulled it, and
it never came out that they were doing this.
And I think someone from there leaked it or something.
And they violated what? They went back and started donating again?
No, we were supposed to be like, usually when I come to these agreements, I'm not allowed to speak about them because a lot of times they want it to be like under wraps. So sometimes companies, there are companies out there that do agree to like pull back the wokeness a little bit. Sometimes you just don't see it because we come to like private agreements. But that one, I think somebody must have leaked it because like my emails with them got in like SEC documents. And
oh, really?
You could look it up.
And what, somebody from their side?
I have no idea.
Yeah, but it wasn't you.
No.
All right. So EPEC at nationalcenter.org.
Yeah.
And as long as somebody's held more than $25,000 of stock for a year, you said $15,000 for 2 years or $2,500 or more for 3 years straight, then they can submit these, and that'd be helpful as well.
Yep.
Amazing, man. Well, listen, I don't know how you thought of this. It's amazing that it's like your expertise and what you do for a day job. The fact that you're a Bitcoiner, kind of put those two things together and fire it away. You've definitely changed the conversation, right? And kind of pushed the tempo. And even though Microsoft didn't do it, that's fine. You're on Amazon. There's others, I believe, that are coming. Keep at it. And I think that, it's kind of like a wall. You just keep smashing that hammer and you never know which is the one that's going to finally break through. And once you get one, my guess is that you'll get a lot more.
First domino and then the rest fall. Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this.
I appreciate it.